Hello and welcome back to another episode. Last time we made this giant fancy map of everything that we have done. Not sure why there's some weird lines on it from where the maps join together, but that's not my problem because my problem today is pale oak stuff. So last week we did a nice little world tour because this week I'm in Portugal, so it allows me to record 2 episodes fairly easily. This one as well is going to be another one that I've kind of taken fairly easy because we're going to go out, we're going to go to the Pale Garden, we're going to collect up some stuff so that we can sort our storage out, and then while we're there we're going to talk about Bedrock and Java Parity issues, just a little bit of a discussion. So if you've got any thoughts from any of it, then leave those thoughts in the comments and then we can continue the discussion on there. But it is to collect up a lot of the resources because we need all of those stuff to put into our storage system, and then we've got to make some decisions on how it's going to fit in, because at the moment everything is full of stuff, so we need to take things out and add in our Pale Garden stuff. So let's head straight over there. Okay, so parity between Java and Bedrock. The first thing we need to ask is, why are they different? So they were initially coded using, well, they still are coded using different languages. They're 4 different consoles and devices. So Bedrock's for the consoles, you can get it on your iPad, your phone, so they've got it all kind of mixed together and they're all cross-play. Whereas Java is purely for, your computers, your hardware. And the modding capabilities are a lot more on Java because you've got more access to the mods and also the files, whereas Bedrock, the only way to get mods and stuff is through the Minecraft Marketplace and add-ons, and so it's really controlled by Mojang themselves. So they're kind of developed by different companies. So Mojang started off with the Java edition, then earlier on in Bedrock's lifespan, it was all of the different console versions, and then they kind of brought everything together into one place. I'm not sure when, but they brought all of those console versions together, and so now what happens is that there is a difference in between Java and Bedrock. So Mojang's eventual goal is to get parity, but the issue is that whenever they try and cause parity or fix parity issues, you're always going to be getting rid of one side's, what's the word for it? You're always going to be getting rid of one side's features. So there's a lot of unique features that aren't in both editions. And the main thing I think that is going to cause the most outcry is a change of redstone, because the redstone is incredibly different. There's quasi connectivity in Java edition, and the way that redstone all works together is just completely different from Bedrock edition. So Mojang, of course, wants to get everything the same, but the longer they leave it, the more people have relied on those systems which are only in that version of the game. So the longer they don't just go, bam, this is what it is, and then we go for it, the more issues they're going to cause in the long term, because there's going to be a huge outcry if they try and change anything. Like, if you just have to look at the redstone experimental changes where they're changing the order of the redstone to something that's better, it's an easier system to understand. But there was a huge outcry from the technical community, and imagine doing that but changing all of the redstone to Bedrock redstone. You're getting rid of quasi connectivity, you're getting rid of a lot of stuff that is just completely unique to Java and makes everything work so much better. But imagine then getting rid of that. The outcry would be incredible. There's no way for them to do it. The only way that they could do it is by slowly phasing things out. But then each time you slowly do something, it changes things. So the community adapts, then it breaks again. Then they adapt, it breaks again. And after a while, people get sick of it. So they're in an incredibly tough position with their parity issues. And there's a lot of things that have gone on recently with recent updates, mainly the bundle, and how a lot of the Java community felt like they're trying to dumb it down so that it works on mobile, which kind of goes against their initial why they made each version the way it is at the start, because they're trying to fit something that goes on high-end PCs as well as mobile phones, and that is just, it's a ridiculous thing to think about. and it's a ridiculously hard task. So why have we got to try and fit these things together when really you should be looking at what's best for each version and then how it can then be implemented? So you're always going to have differences, especially in the UI, which was the main problem with the bundle. And then they ended up making it slightly more complicated anyway, which is just why it's baffling, because you've got the touchscreen and then you've got mouse and keyboard to deal with, both of them completely different in how they're going to interact with it. So you don't need it to be completely parity in terms of that front. The other thing is that there's been a lot of movement changes in Java recently. I don't know if that's fully parity issues, but because it was so under the rug, it wasn't in any of the changelogs or anything. It feels like they just kind of went against what a lot of the community wanted in a lot of the movement tech. And there was, again, a big outcry from it. Whatever happens, there's going to be a big outcry. So there's a lot of things that are negatives in the parity side, but of course there are a load of positives. There are loads of features on Bedrock which are great, which Java should have, but at the moment it feels like all that's being focused on is the negative side of things and how Bedrock is dumbing down Java, making it simpler and not as good. Whereas there are so many good features. Like, just off the top of my head, Bedrock has a harder wither, so it's a wither fight. I don't think I've ever beat the wither in a normal fight. I always just cheese it, put it in a tunnel or Bedrock ceiling. But when I played Bedrock, didn't beat it. It absolutely destroyed me. Never played that world again. It is incredibly hard. I started it in the mines, and then it just dug its way up to the surface. We were in the middle of an ocean biome. I'm like, what can I do now? It keeps flying up. It was impossible. But that's good. That's great fun. Another thing is something that a lot of the community have been talking about for a while. And I know Ilmango and maybe Nembom, who is now a developer, have kind of championed movable tile entities for a long time, and there's a lot of interesting things that can be done with it. Even if you're not on the redstone side of things, there's a lot of small quality of life issues. Like, for example, one thing that I use movable tile entities for those of you that don't know what they are, it's stuff that has like an inventory, so like chests, and in my case, I used to use it as lecterns. I used to push the lectern with a piston, so that it refreshed the librarian's job. So instead of having to break and replace it, I just moved it with a piston, and then it was much easier to cycle through the trades that you'd want. But there are a lot of things. Movable dispensers, so flying machines that can dispense TNT, insane stuff. Movable hoppers. Like, it's just so much that you can do with movable tile entities. But it feels like it's not going to come because they're not focused on that part of the parity. It's slightly weird. I'm not sure fully about it. And then another one is one of my favourite features from Bedrock, which is if you bone meal a small flower, so a poppy, a dandelion, then it will create more of those flowers around it. So it's like if you were bone mealing the ground, it will bone meal all the grass everywhere, but you get exclusively flowers, which then means that you can farm those one-tool flowers anywhere in the world. They weren't biome specific, which in relation to the current project that I'm undertaking would be an insane feature, because now as more flowers have been added, like the ones that are in the Pale Garden, it means that I can't automate those in my spawn area. And I selected my spawn specifically because it had the swamp biome and it had a flower forest pretty close by, so that I could get all of those flowers. But because of the Pale Garden, I now can't get that. So the more things that are biome specific makes certain playstyles more difficult, certain easier. So I'm going to browse through the wiki now, have a look at some of the things that are different. And there's a lot of stuff, and it's really weird why some of these things are different. So it's probably just to do with the rendering engines. So for example, any light emitting blocks in the inventory, they're much brighter in the Bedrock edition, in the inventory. It's weird. Why? Beds have a different model. Like, why do these things have different models? Cakes stacked to 64. That is another huge gripe I've got against Java edition, and it's a win for Bedrock, because why do cakes not stack I don't like anything that doesn't stack to 64. Why are we not stacking to 64 at this point? The only things that I can think of is tools. Like potions. They were going to add stackable potions, make them stackable to 64. You can do it. You've done it before in tests. Snowballs. Why do they stack to 16? You stack loads of other stuff to 64 that are very similar to snowballs, like the wind charge. But ender pearls and snowballs still only stack to 16. It's ridiculous. Cauldrons being able to hold potions on Bedrock, like that's pretty cool. I don't know 100% what you add. Oh, that goes for tipped arrows and stuff with that. It's really cool. Like, but then there's some other weird things like cocoa beans. They drop 2 or 3 on Bedrock Edition, but they always drop 3 on Java. Why? Why is that a difference? The dirt paths and farmland can have blocks on the sides of them. Fences can have buttons on the top of them. It just adds extra ways to detail, but it's a difference that is weird. Why is it so weird? Ferns, you can randomly grow ferns from bone meal in the ground in Bedrock. Apparently fortune works on tall flowers as well. That's quite cool. Grass have a random height. Okay, that adds a little bit of variation there. That's quite cool. Item frames are blocks instead of entities, which changes up the rendering systems of things. So why is that a difference? Why is that not implemented into Java, which would improve the performance? Leaves are a big one that's kind of been a little bit of a discussion, especially with it just being Christmas time. It's winter. Everyone's thinking about snowy leaves, and with the pale oak ones, they're grey, they're snowy. But Bedrock allows you to actually have fully white leaves when it snows, and if you have snow layers on top of them, it's pretty cool. Why do lightning rods have twice the range in Bedrock? Weird. That's weird. Banner designs being listed in a different order in looms. Why are some of these things different? They shouldn't be different. It's so weird. The inside of the mushroom block texture is an actual texture in creative that you can get in Bedrock, whereas in Java, if you want to use that texture, then you've got to go through the process of placing the mushroom block against it and then removing it. Honey blocks, they're transparent blocks in Java, but they're not in Bedrock, so you can transmit signals through them, which can be a positive, can be a negative. There are a lot of fly machine contraptions that would be a little bit easier if you had honey blocks transmitting signals, but then you also would lose a little bit of the quirkiness from it as well. Pistons, there is a lot of stuff here to do with pistons, so I'm not sure. I'm just going to read this list through, and then we're going to just kind of have a look at it. So in Bedrock Edition, power piston, unextended piston immediately extends if it becomes able to, rather than waiting for an update. So block update detection. So if that was in the game with quasi connectivity, then that would just kind of boost it. So instead of having to place a block next to it to update it, then it just goes for it. Interesting, really interesting stuff. You can't spit out the blocks from a sticky piston, which, again, it's a bad thing if you get rid of that, but it's a good thing if you add that to Bedrock. You know, it's all just kind of looking at which is the different ways. There's different timings on it. Why is there different timings in it? Is it because of the engine? But a lot of these things, they don't quite line up to things. But some things can be added and taken away without getting rid of, you know, the features. You can implement them in different ways. But if we're looking for parity, then a lot of things are going to have to be changed, and there's going to be a lot of outcry, and it's not going to work. There's not going to be a way for Mojang to do this without getting incredibly bad feedback from the community. Redstone dust, it connects to pistons, so pistons actually redirect redstone dust, which is what target blocks do, but it's not what pistons do in Java. So again, it's a slight change, but why is that a difference? Is it only pistons that do it? I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, so they don't redirect to other blocks of redstone, but they do that one, so it shouldn't be a coding issue, right? Power transmission is in a random order. Again, that's one of the things that was looking to be fixed by the Redstone order update, which I still think is a really good update. That's one that I think they should add and then put it in both of them. So instead of catering to one audience, you're changing both things to make it better. I think it's better. A lot of the completely insanely advanced technical players might not think it's better, but it is better in the long run because it's better for those getting into Redstone. And then it allows things to work much more logically. Yes, you have to redesign some stuff, but you make that change and it's better for both versions. So that's something that I think Mojang should go ahead with, is the powering order of things, because I think they've really worked out a good solution with that. And as they do more, then that's a really good thing. Pistons moving redstone blocks. So redstone blocks powering pistons that are pushing those pistons when they're being pushed up. It's weird. Why does that happen? Really weird stuff. It's because of quality connectivity, I can tell you that. Bedrock can't be toggled to become a dot, though. So why is that a difference again? That's a weird one. That's really a weird one. Bedrock seems to render the back faces of a lot of objects and changes things so things are slightly more 3D. It seems that transparent blocks can support levers, buttons, stuff like that, things that aren't quite full blocks. Sugarcane. Bone meal can be used on sugarcane. And then it instantly breaks if the water is removed, whereas in Java then it needs to be updated. So that's weird. Bone meal can be used on sugarcane. Why is that a difference? Why? It's a cool one. Walls can be used to attach to lead to. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So there's a lot of things that are different. What have we got here? Books and quills, you have 2 pages open at once and you can change who the author is. Again, good changes. There are a lot of good changes that Bedrock have, but everyone's always focused on the bad ones and no one's ever looking at what those good changes are and how we can improve both versions together. So there's really a lot of stuff. I mean, different models. Why do fence gates have a different model without the holes in? It's weird. Enchanted golden apples give regen 5 for 30 seconds instead of 2 for 20 seconds like Java. It's weird. Why is there differences? Fishing rods have a higher durability. Again, a lot of these changes. Why is there the need for these things? And surely it's quite an easy change on one side of things. You just go for whatever's better. So, for example, for the fishing rods, you up the Java durability to 384. Boom. Who's going to complain? No one's complaining. But of course, are they going to focus on these things when they can add in those new features? Like we've already seen new snapshots with features in. And currently Mojang are really focusing on creating or improving the back-end technical side of things. Like if you look at the most recent snapshots, there's a lot of groundwork being put in for systems that improve performance and all of that stuff in there. So I get why the parity issues aren't quite the top of their list, but it's when it becomes an issue, the parity, that is causing a problem. But there are a lot of things that they can do that people will be happy about. Maps, for example. There's 2 different kinds of map in Bedrock. One that takes 9 paper and doesn't show anything on them, like the player marker on the map, whereas the one that still is the normal recipe in Java, that one does. So there's an extra thing there. There's a lot of small different things. Like why do things have different models? The offhand, why is the offhand not really a thing? I mean, surely it's the same logic as Java because there's not much difference. You don't yes, there's a button to swap your offhand, so that's an extra thing you've got to factor in to the controller or your interface on the iPad, for example. But actually using the things it's just a logic system. Is can I use this thing? No. Can I use this offhand thing? Yes. Then use the offhand thing. It's quite strange. A lot of things, but there's a lot of different little changes. And then like charge creeper explosions, they drop heads/skulls for all of the mobs that it kills rather than just the one. Why is that a difference? It does not make sense why there's a lot of these differences. Because why? If you're looking for parity, why are you adding in these things and then boom, they're different? It's quite weird. So in conclusion, there are a lot of good things in Java. There are a lot of good things in Bedrock. There are a lot of good exclusives in both. And if you put those things in, just straight into the games that are exclusive, that don't change anything but add stuff, boom, everything comes much better. Everything gets more parity. And there are lots of good features that everyone will be happy about adding. Like, you add in movable tile entities to Java, boom, a lot of happiness. A lot of happiness. There's a few things that need to go back and be changed, like you need to go and move your pistons out from your flying machine contraptions to stop them from moving and just replace them with another removable block. Simple. Really simple. But people will be happy to make that change. Whereas if you go and change the whole of Redstone to make it work like Bedrock, everyone's going to complain. And you've put yourself in this situation because it's been so long with both of these things that they are dependent and they don't want, they're completely dependent from each other. You've got a tutorial that will work on Java but not on Bedrock. Do Mojang want it so that that tutorial will work for everything? If you do, you need to scrap one of the versions because there's no point in having that. If you want parity, there is no point in having two versions. Simple as that. But that's not going to happen because whatever Mojang decide to do, they're in a really tough spot with how they handle parity, because it's not going to be a simple solution, because there's going to be so much outrage. As I've said, so much outrage. And I don't envy their situation, but please, if there's one thing that you do add from Bedrock into Java, it's the flowers. I want the flowers. Bone meal flowers, get more flowers around it. Please, that's the main one, although there's a lot of other stuff as well. So I think that's plenty of my rambling here. Let's head back into the world. So our Etho storage system, if you don't know what this is, it's the same one that Etho uses. I don't know how he plans on introducing all of the creaking stuff into his system, but as you can see, it has pretty much one of most things that you'll need in this. And for example, in the wood one, it doesn't have any planks because you can just craft planks and everything from these materials. So in theory, it's a kind of one shoe fits all system, and we're going to make a few little changes according to try and fit these blocks in. So the first thing is pale moss. That goes in dirty wood. I'm going to get rid of moss carpets and we're going to put pale moss in, I think. Or no, we're not going to do that actually. We are going to put the pale oak log into here, and then we're going to put the pale moss somewhere else, I think. But there's a lot of decisions to kind of make in terms of this. So I think that probably there is the new wood box. A lot of this stuff here, for example, the sapling, there's no space in here. Let's be honest, there's no space. But if we try and create space, we can get rid of bone meal. We don't need bone meal in there. Tempted to get rid of small drip leaf because it just takes so long to gather. A lot of the stuff down this end, the miscellaneous stuff, I don't need armadillo scoop, don't need rabbit hide. A lot of stuff can just go. Potentially these ones here. Odd blocks, jukeboxes are expensive, so they can probably go. Fuzzy money, kind of happy with. Don't like the blocks of diamonds. Don't like the netherite. Don't like the netherite in there. Concrete, I think we're going to get rid of anything that isn't powder. We're just going to have powder in here. Terracotta, again, we can get rid of a lot of the glazed stuff. Sand, again, we're missing chiseled red sandstone, but otherwise I'm happy with all of that in there. With the skeleton skulls, we should be able to easily get, so that's fine. Ancient debris, would like to get rid of. I know I got rid of the lodestone and replaced it with something else. I don't remember, one of the tough ones, but lodestones we can add back in now, because in the latest snapshot of the year, well, not the latest one, but one of the current ones, they've made lodestones cheap now, so they can go into the system because they're a nice block that we can use. And so that'll do that. And then we've also got those two other new ones, the wildflowers and the leaf litter that we also need to start find a place for. So I think the main victims are going to be terracotta, concrete, and misc 1, I think, because this is a lot of potion stuff. So fairly happy with leaving this one as it is. Yeah, and then getting rid of a lot of stuff in here. So your rabbit hide, your armadillo scoop, your sticks, your these here probably. Amethyst shards can go as well. A lot of stuff that you can get rid of for other things, like you can put wind charges in here. So there's a lot of playing around to do here. Jukebox is going, a lot of stuff, which will, again, it's a slow process as it is in the world actually organising everything. Like we don't have furnaces, blast furnaces in here, so those would need to go into a separate thing. This one, happy with other than conduit. Sponge is fine, I guess. This one here likes to remove the bone meal. Yeah. Spore blossom again, another painful one. These two are quite painful, so these ones will probably go. Maybe it'll be replaced by the wildflowers and the stuff, and the leaf litter, I think. This one here, we need to fit the pale oak leaves in there somewhere, so potentially moving maybe vines over or dead bushes over to plants. I think dead bushes, and then you've got room for the leaves in there, which I think is all right. Putting it, yeah. You're probably looking at getting rid of decorated pots for the saplings, I think. I think that's probably the most sensible one, moving decorated pots maybe into there. It's a lot of stuff to think about, so we'll sort that in the future, but I just wanted to kind of put my thoughts on the storage at the end of this episode here. Next time, who knows? Well, there we have it. A little bit of a different episode this time, but it wasn't too hard for me to make, which is what I needed, considering I procrastinated for absolutely ages. Now there's a surprise. But if you have enjoyed and have any thoughts on the Bedrock Java parity, then please leave those thoughts in the comments below. We can continue the discussion, as there is a lot to talk about and a lot to think about on the whole project. Next week, we might be returning to form where we actually get some stuff done, because it's 2 weeks now where I haven't actually done anything really. So hopefully there's that. So if you're looking forward to that, please make sure you subscribe, leave a like, comment, all that engagement stuff that I have to spout waffle at the end. But if you have made it this far, thank you very much, and goodbye.